Please join me in welcoming to the stage from General Motors, the Executive Vice President of Global Manufacturing, Jim DeLuca. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you.
So Jim, maybe just for level-setting purposes, to start off with, sort of what's your domain here? And you've got 171 plants, I think, but give us the big picture.
So I'm Executive Vice President of Manufacturing for General Motors. I'm responsible for 190,000 employees who work in 171 plants around the world, 2/3 of our organization.
And this is building everything that GM builds.
Cars, trucks, and crossovers around the world, yes.
So how do you think, where does sustainability, do you even use that word, where does it fit into the work, but also particularly how you engage the people, the 190,000 people?
Yeah, Joel, let me start at the top, and it really starts with the conversation you just heard. Sustainability has to start at the top of the organization, so the board, the CEO, the executive leadership team need to define it as a priority. Our CEO, Mary Barra, says, you know, our customers care about more than just the cars. They care about how we produce them, they care about what they're made of, and they care about how we interface with the environment. So it certainly starts there. When we talk about my organization, specifically my role...
Can I just, before you go on with that, how do you know the customers care? What do you hear from customers know that they care about the environment in relationship to the cars they buy?
We hear it anecdotally. We hear it in our families, right? I have children like many of you do, and they talk more about sustainability than I ever did as a kid. So we hear it across the board.
But you actually know that in car choices and how people are interacting with General Motors, that this is an issue.
Our marketing surveys would say yes, it is.
Okay, good.
So now, in terms of my role, I need to provide the playbook for the organization. And so in General Motors Manufacturing, that playbook is our Global Manufacturing System, or GMS. GMS is simply made up of 5 principles: people involvement, continuous improvement, standardization, short lead time, and built-in quality. I would say first among equals is people involvement. Getting the organization engaged is critically important. From there, another very important element is our business plan. We have a business plan in GM Manufacturing that starts in my office and transfers down to the plant floor, every single plant floor. And that business plan defines our priorities. And I won't bore you with all of the priorities, but I think this group will be interested to know that environmental is one of our priorities. And so every single plant has a scorecard. And that's how we judge their performance. And on their scorecard are environmental metrics: water usage, waste generation, and energy usage. So every single plant around the world, as part of their work, is working to improve performance in those specific areas. And we leave it up to the team. Now that we've established a structure, we leave it up to the team to figure out how to get that job done. So they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. I'll share just one example. In today's manufacturing, most of our body shops are highly automated. And so we have sections of the body shop where we weld together cars, trucks, and crossovers where there are no people. It's simply robotics. And as groups of skilled trades were working on their energy reduction initiatives, they said, you know what? This piece of the body shop that has no people is lit up like this stage, and it doesn't need to be. And so now they rework the controllers such that when the lines are running, the lights are down because they're not needed. If there's a fault and the equipment goes down, the controller then brings the lights up. And so when skilled trades get there to resolve an issue, they can work safely. When they start to zone up, close the safety gate, voila, the lights go down. Energy reduction. Just one very simple idea comes out of the creativity of the people, but it's all based on getting the organization engaged. So, Joel, just one example.
Yeah, so employee engagement is one of those issues that pretty much every company in this room watching this online deals with, and how to engage them around environmental and sustainability issues in general. It's easy to say, and we engage our employees. It's hard to do. What works, and what are you challenged with in doing that?
Let me share a couple of different ways. First of all, we think the sharing of best practices is very, very important because, after all, a good idea in Arlington, Texas can also be a good idea in Gliwice, Poland. So I'll give you one example. We have two plants, one in Telegon, India, and one in Rayong, Thailand. And they worked with a common supplier to transfer from the use of wood pallets to recyclable plastic containers. And when they made this transition, those two facilities saved 146 tons of palletized waste. And then we spread that idea through a system around the world, and other plants have an opportunity to look at it and see if they can use it. Another example, we think rewarding employees is important because they like to get rewarded for their innovation. In the United States, we have a suggestion program with our joint partners, the UAW, and we reward employees for their great ideas. We actually give them a portion of the savings generated from their idea, and a maximum award for an hourly employee could be $20,000 for a single suggestion idea, or if it's a team suggestion, $25,000. The other thing we think, continuous improvement, which is one of our principles of our global manufacturing system, it drives engagement. It drives employees to go above and beyond. A couple more examples. At our plant in Lake Orion, Michigan, where we produce the Chevrolet Sonic, in the paint shop where they paint vehicles, at the end of the process, they use these finesse rags to finesse the vehicle before it goes to final assembly and general assembly. And they use them for a period of time and they discard them. And as they were working on their scorecard, they said, we have an opportunity here. This becomes waste. We have to buy new ones. It's a cost issue. Why don't we reuse them? So the first step in that process is they went out to a vendor and they said, how much will it cost you to wash these and bring them back to us? And they looked at the quote and they said, oh my gosh, this company must send their kids to private schools. It's too expensive. We could do this a lot cheaper than them. We have time during the course of the day. If we had a washer and dryer in our team room, we could wash and dry these rags. We could reuse them then and then save the cost of both the rag and had they gone out on a quote. So just another example of people getting engaged. I'll share one more recycle example for you at our Fort Wayne plant in Fort Wayne, Indiana, where they produce the Chevrolet Silverado. A group of employees working with engineering and suppliers have now taken cardboard waste and they're recycling that into acoustic material, which is used specifically in the Buick Verano and the Buick LaCrosse. So waste from Fort Wayne is now becoming part of Buick's quiet ride. The last thing I would share with you relative to generating employee engagement is recognition. I think it's been talked about over the last day or so. Very, very important. We think it is as well. We have a formal recognition program that recognizes the plant in the world that generates superior year-over-year performance in 8 different categories. One of those categories is energy reduction. We have 4 regions, so 4 plants selected around the world for their year-over-year improvement in energy reduction.
So a lot of this is all great stuff, and I could listen through one lens and say this is just great cost-saving efficiencies, which of course much of what environmental initiatives is really. It's about leaner, it's about just waste-free, and you've got 120 some zero
122.
waste 122 zero waste facilities around the world. But is this, and maybe this doesn't need to be about environmental or sustainability issues, is that just how it should be, that this is about efficiency? Or do you play this back in terms of the greater good, the environmental aspect of this? How do you connect those, or is that even important?
Well, I think it is important, and I think, again, we start at the top. So when we talk about the sustainability journey and why we do it, we don't say we do it because it's the right thing to do. We say we do it because it impacts top-line growth, it impacts bottom line results, and it impacts risk. And so we think it's very, very important for those reasons. When we established our 2020 sustainability goals back in 2010, I mean, we did it for those reasons. And I don't think we knew how far we would move and how quickly we would move. Certainly faster than we thought when we identified those goals back in 2020.
So you talk about risk. You brought up risk, and that's a great issue. It's one of the undergirding themes of these few days here in Scottsdale. Talk more about how these things that you're doing reduce risk.
Yeah, when you talk about the importance of protecting the environment, that is certainly a priority for us. And as each of these initiatives, as we execute them, a significant impact on risk reduction. As we talk about risk reduction, and I know we just had the discussion on the board, one of the focuses of our board is on risk identification and risk mitigation. And so every area of our business spends a lot of time on the identification of risk and the mitigation of risk. And we think this is an important initiative in that realm.
Well, give us some examples of how the things that you've been talking about, what kind of risk you're talking about. Are they, I mean, it's a different risk than a vehicle safety risk, but what is the risk you're mitigating here?
Yeah, so let's talk again. I think examples are best. So let's talk about from a technology perspective. In our paint shops, as we apply paint, traditionally you would apply a primer, go through an oven that would generate VOCs, and then you would apply a base coat and a clear coat and go through another oven. Now we are executing with our suppliers a 3-wet process. So you apply prime, wet, base, wet, clear, wet, and go through one oven. So your VOC emissions are going to be less. Certainly your energy reduction, almost 45 to 50% less, and the paint shops are the area of the plant that uses the most energy in General Motors.
So I'm not sure I heard explicitly where the risk piece is in that. Or, again, it seems like
Emissions.
Great efficiency. Okay, so reducing
VOC emissions.
Into the atmosphere.
Correct.
Okay. One of the recurring themes when we talk about engaging employees, and particularly at the scale that General Motors does, is this big, thick wad, or some people call it frozen tundra, called middle management. Which
the
is
frozen middle.
Frozen middle, which is just unbelievably skilled at thwarting change. How do you deal with that when you come to trying to, pardon the expression, drive these changes through your organization?
It's an interesting question, but if you think about our global manufacturing system, GMS, which is kind of a top-down approach, it is focused on the operator, the guys and girls that actually assemble our vehicles. It requires us, whether it's people, quality, cost, safety, responsiveness, or the environment, it requires us to move down through the organization. And I know you're going to find this hard to believe, but as much time as I spend in the plants and with our people at every level of the organization, I don't see the frozen middle. Now, granted, in high school in New Jersey, I was voted most naive, but I don't think that has anything to do with my position on the frozen middle. In General Motors manufacturing, we haven't seen it, but I think it's the result of engagement at every level of the organization. And I know it's a challenge for everybody in this room and everybody in industry, because how do you get 190,000 people rowing the boat together? It is a challenge. It remains a challenge for us, one we've been working on for a good 20 years seriously. But at the end of the day, when you can get them to do that, we have no idea how good we can be.
So nothing in the middle that's really been a problem. It just
not from my perspective.
Grab an oar and let's get going.
Yes, sir.
Lauren, what kind of questions we have?
Yeah, we've got a bit of a frenzy going on Twitter.
Frenzy.
So that's
I don't
a
know
good
if that's
sign.
good or bad.
No, it's good. People are interested. So we've heard some instructive points about energy reduction, but can you speak to any interest GM might have in investing directly in clean energy?
Yeah, absolutely. I think many of you know we just announced a wind farm in Mexico. This is our first foray into wind power. We've done landfill gas. We have done solar energy. If you lined up all our solar panels I'm told it would take up 100 football fields. This is our first foray into wind, and that will be for our DeLuca, Mexico complex. Once that's up and running, 12% of our North American energy needs will be met through renewable energy. So something that we think is very, very
Do
important.
you have any longer-term aspirations to get to 20 or 50 or 100%?
Actually, interesting question, Joel, and I think a lot of this was discussed yesterday, specifically when Carter was up here. When we developed our 2020 sustainability goals back in 2010, we thought we were being fairly aggressive, and here we are in 2015. We've already met 3 of them in terms of VOC emissions, total waste reduction, and landfill-free sites. This one will now allow us to meet that requirement. I think we got to go beyond where we've gone before, and we're going to be spending time in terms of what should our next set of targets be. But to specifically, on stage today, publicly, on the internet, tell you what that's going to be, I'm not there yet.
Okay. Next year, we'll learn more about that. Lauren?
Yeah, we've also got viewers who want to know more about how you push your business plans from your office to the production line.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I don't want to make this sound simpler than it is, because we developed our global manufacturing system, which is our production system, again, over a 20-year period of time. It started with our relationship at NUMMI with Toyota, has evolved from there, and it really requires the entire organization to learn and understand. I mean, our mantra is keep your objectives simple, communicate them often and clearly, measure the significant few, and drive performance daily. So whether you are a vice president of manufacturing reporting to me, a regional manufacturing manager reporting to them, a plant manager, an area manager, or a team leader, you're working off of the same scorecard. So you're driving the same priorities. And in General Motors, our priorities, again, are General Motors manufacturing, safety, people, quality, cost, responsiveness, and the environment. And I say on the one hand, it's that simple. It's also that difficult, because you just got to stick to it. The worst thing you can do to an organization is act like a sailboat and tack every time the wind changes. If you can keep the organization focused, keep them understanding what the business plan is, you'll be successful. I've never been in an organization where we haven't been able to do that.
Is there ever an example where environment trumps the other ones of those on that list?
Honestly, the way we preach to our organization, it's the first, they're the same. There is no first among equals, because one of our goals is to eliminate fatalities in the workplace. So how can I say that the environmental metrics trump the elimination of fatalities? And in GM, when we talk about the elimination of fatalities, it's not just our employees, it's contractors as well. It's anybody who does work at any location on our behalf. It's our job to make sure that at the end of the day, they go home safely to their loved ones. So no, I can't say it is.
Yeah. So you've been here for the past day or so, and you've soaked up some of this. I know you've had a lot of great meetings with some of the wonderful thought leaders that we bring to this event. What's the message that you're going to bring back to leadership about what you see going on around corporate sustainability leadership?
I think I'm going to say 2 things. Number 1, there is great work going on in this space. Number 2, there's great work going on within General Motors. But number 3, we're probably not talking about it as much as we should, which means our brand probably isn't as strong as it could be, because we haven't clearly communicated all the good things that we are doing, because we do think it's very, very important. I've been in this position for 1 year, and this is the first public speaking engagement I've done. We selected this forum because we think it's very, very important, and we know you do as well.
Well, we appreciate that, and we appreciate your speaking on this and bringing this forth. And I hope that this is the first of many opportunities, not just at our events, but at others, to share and learn while you're out about the great potential to leverage your iconic brand and your 190,000 rowers all going in one direction. So thank you for that, and please join me in thanking Jim DeLuca.
Thank you.
Thank you.